Alright guys, we're back here working on the 92 Honda Nighthawk 750. What we're going to do next is go ahead and remove the carburetor. I've got to rejet this carburetor because we're going with the Delcavic 4-into-1 exhaust. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and remove this carburetor. So we're going to go ahead and take these bands loose here on the front part of the carburetor. We're going to take the bands loose here on the back part of the carburetor, go into the air cleaner, and we're going to take the bolt out here and here. There's supposed to be a second bolt too. I'll have to look for it, but we'll find that second bolt as well and move the air box back some and hopefully get these off pretty easy. It looks like somebody has broken this at one time and put some silicone over the crack in this air box. So we're going to go ahead and move that back, hopefully, and get this carb out. And we'll also disconnect the throttle cables, and those feel like they need to be lubed pretty good. This throttle is really hard to turn, and we're going to lube that up too, probably as we do this at the same time, and get all that part done. And then we'll move on to probably installing the exhaust. We might do this all in one video here. And so let's get started on removing the carbs. I gotta check this because this carburetor wasn't really attached. These clamps back here weren't even clamped down on it. The carburetor, just as soon as I put any pressure on it, fell off of the whole airbox side. So I did take these loose. I removed the 3 bolts. There was one up here, one down here, and one right here for the airbox. And so now we're going to disconnect the throttle cables here, and the carb should be ready to come out. I say carb, but carbs. All 4 of them should be ready to come out. Alright, so I got the carbs out. You have to fight a little bit. Turn this carb around here. You have to fight a little bit with the throttle cables here, especially for the I think it was the pull cable. Push cable came out pretty easy, but the pull cable came out. And then you've got your, I don't know if you can see back here where my finger is, the choke cable goes in, and you have to remove that as well. Then the carbs come out pretty easy. So we're going to get ready to take these apart. I'm going to grab the little carburetor kit that we have to use to jet these, and while I have this apart, I'm probably going to flush it out real good just to make sure all the passageways are clear. And I'm not going to do a rebuild on it. I was told it, I know it ran fine. The guy I bought it from, he rode it home, so and it was quite a long drive, so I know it runs good. We're just rejetting everything for the 4-into-1 exhaust. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is take these top covers off and get the slides out and take a look at them, and then we're going to move down. Be very careful taking these screws loose here. If they haven't been removed in a long time, you may need to get a impact driver and try to turn these screws. I checked mine, and they came loose with just a driver. So I'm going to go ahead and take these off, and we'll check the slides. Took all the diaphragms. Took the diaphragms out and everything on the top part and the springs. Got them all laid back there at the back part of the table. I started to take out the carburetor apart on this side, because we are going to be replacing some of the jets and things in it, and we're going to make sure this thing's flushed out and cleaned really well. But I want to keep everything together for each side, so we're just going to keep it all together right here. I did find a rebuild kit in one of the boxes, so I've got new gaskets for the float bowls. At least it's probably all I'm going to need out of the kit. So we're going to just keep working down each one, take all 4 of the screws out, make sure they're loose. If they're feel like they're not going to come out, get that impact hammer or impact driver and get those out as careful as you can. All right, so I'm just going to go through, take all of them out, take a look inside the bowls. This one, the first one I took out, doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's pretty clean. I know. All right, so we've got all the bowls off the bottom of the carbs. These particular carbs, the floats are non-adjustable. So what we're going to wind up doing on this carb, after we take it apart, clean everything really good, make sure all the passageways are clear, we're going to be replacing these jets. Now on this kit is from Six Sigma jetkits.com. They come with 3 different size jets. At least this kit did. I didn't purchase this kit. It came with the bike when I bought it. But so what I think, what they're going to what they want you to do per the instructions are, you're going to use the 2 112.5s here on the center carbs, and on the outside carbs you're going to use the 115. You have 2 of them. So, and if you run this and it's still lean, you can rejet it again. You take the 115s, move those to the center, and then put the 117.5s in the 2 outers. So that way, if you're still running lean, that should take care of that. We're also going to be changing out the pilot jets with new jets here. And also we're going to be drilling out the slides on the carb. We're going to be drilling those holes out to make them larger, and then we're going to also be putting washers in on the needles so it raises the needle up a little bit in the carb as well. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to start taking these apart, taking all the jets out of them, get everything cleaned real good, make sure all the passageways are clear. That's the one thing I want to make sure of. The carbs themselves are pretty clean. I'm not going to run them through the ultrasonic because they're pretty clean on the outside. Mainly use the ultrasonic for cleaning the outside. Cleaning the inside, you want to use air and fluid to make sure those are clean. The ultrasonic may clean it some, but you want to make sure you clean it all the way, each passageway, and make sure all of them are nice and clean. I'm not going to be tearing each carb down in this. I don't think that's necessary. So we're just going to blow out all the passageways with some carb cleaner and some air, not real high pressure air, but just enough to kind of flush everything out. So that's the plan. So let's get cracking. All right, so we went ahead and drilled these out. I don't know if you can see in the picture or in the camera angle there. The one side was already the size of the drill bit, which is 7/64. The other one was not, so we just drilled that one out. So we got all 4 of them drilled, and so now we're going to move on to we're going to probably go ahead and do the spacers and everything on the slides, get that all done and ready to go, so they'll be ready to go back in. I'll try to show you what I'm doing with these needles. I'm putting 2 shims on it. Hopefully you can see that there. 2 shims on the needle, and carefully sliding it on here so the shims stay in place. Alright, get the needle to come through. Just hold on to the needle, and then this one has a little retaining screw, or retaining nut if you want to say, and spring. I don't know if you can see this or not. Kind of balance it on the screwdriver, and then just slide it up into the unit here, and then just turn it and you kind of lock it down that way. I kind of like these little nut things that they have to hold the spring in, little retaining nut. Works pretty good. I didn't think I'd like it at first when I first started taking them apart, but it actually works pretty well. So we're going to continue on with the slides. One other thing, I cleaned the shavings out of the inside really well. I didn't want to spray this with anything because sometimes the carb cleaner will kind of affect the rubber part of these diaphragms and can cause it not to seal. So I don't like to spray these with anything. So I cleaned out the inside with a paper towel and then sprayed it down with some, or blew it out with some air. Got it real clean, and so we got all the metal shavings out of it. So it should be good to go. Alright, so we're going to continue on. Alright guys, I hope you can see this okay. I went ahead and removed the floats and the needle. And so now I went through and broke loose all the main jets and the pilot jets on all of these. Now this one here was, let's see. This one here was in there pretty tight, and it actually broke a little bit when it was coming loose, but got it loose. So we're going to take all those out, and we're going to spray these carbs out real good with carb cleaner and then with air. And like I said, not real high pressure air, but we just want to make sure all the passageways are open. So then we're going to get ready to put the new jets in and get this thing ready, hopefully, to go back together. Okay, I broke these emulsion tubes loose also. Used a 7mm wrench on those. This first one looks pretty clean. And the jet also is clean. I don't know if you can see it. You can see through it all right. I'm going to just put those, I always put everything back in the bowl for its particular carb that it's for. Alright, now we're switching all these out, but I'm still going to go ahead and just keep them in the same order as I took them out. We will be using the emulsion tubes though. I call them emulsion tubes, I don't think there's another name for them. These, we'll be using these again. This carb looks fairly clean. I don't know if somebody's had it apart recently, but it's fairly clean inside. So I'm just going to go ahead and take these apart. We'll get ready for the cleaning. Alright, so I'm just going to blast this out with carb cleaner. And I'm going to do it outside because this carb cleaner is stinky and I don't like the smell of it. So I'm going to get some gloves on and I'm going to do that outside. I'll be back. Alright guys, so I went through, blew every one of the holes out here on all the carbs. Even there's some small little holes, I don't know if you can see them, down in there. Let's see if you can see them. I don't know if you can see them, but there's like 2 or 3 little ones down here next to the butterfly, and then there's another one here. So I blew all those out, made sure all of them had air coming through them. The ones here also. So hopefully we have no restrictions on this carburetor now. No jets or no ports that should be clogged. Everything should be able to just go back in. We should be able to start up and run. So we're going to start putting them all back together now, and we're going to put the pilot jets, the new pilot jets, the new main jets in, and then we'll put the float and everything on it. Alright, we got all the new main jets in and the pilot jets. So now we're going to, and when you put these in, don't go cranking down on them real hard. You don't, that's not necessary. This is very soft material, so just snug it up, just a little snug. All right, so get that done. Now we're going to put the needle and seat back in and the float. So that will be the next thing. Let's see if I can do it one on camera here. It's I already checked these and they look really new actually. So what I do is I'll put the float needle on the float. Hopefully you can see this all right. My screen went to sleep. So just put it on nice and easy, slide it on there, find your pin, and then put your pin back in. I believe this pin went left or right, I believe it was. And then just carefully, oops, I just knocked the needle out. So like I said, just be very careful that you get it in there right, and be very careful with these plastic floats. You don't want to be right there to putting it back together and damage one of the floats and then have to wait for new parts to come in. It's not fun. So just take your time. If you have to play with it a little bit like I'm doing, do that. I just dropped my needle because my carb got hung up back there. So we'll try this again here. It never works right when you're trying to film doing it. That's why I usually just film when I'm done with things and kind of tell you what I did. Because it seems like when you're recording it, it doesn't go right. Any other time it'll fall right in there, work perfect. All right, so then you get it in and you're just gonna line your pin up and be good to go. Mine didn't fall in properly, so I'm gonna take it back out. Oh no, maybe it did. Like I said, it never goes right when the camera's on. There we go. And just slide it in there and it should be good to go. All right, so make sure it's moving up and down like it should, and you're good to go. All right. All right, so now that we have all the floats back on, everything is done, what I usually do is take some carb cleaner, I spray in this bowl, spray some in the bowl, and I use one of these acid brushes just to go around the bowl really good to get everything down in the bottom. These bowls were pretty clean, but there was still a little bit of goopy stuff down in the bottom, and so I was able to get that out. So they're nice and clean now. Have some new bowl gaskets that I'll put on. So I'm going to put those on, and then we're going to go ahead and put the bowls on. All right. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to do the same thing with all four of them and put everything back together. All right, I have 3 of these put together already. Putting the 4th one together. Just put the slide back in here. Make sure the needle goes in the little hole in the middle of the carb. Get your diaphragm all lined up, and then you have to put the spring in like that, and then you have to get the top one. I'm going to do it with both hands, and I don't know if I'll be able to put the camera anywhere where I could record it. Maybe you can see it. Alright, so I'll just take it, line up with the little hole, if you can see there, right there on the bottom. Make sure the diaphragm stays in place, press it back in, and then put the screws in. And I don't know where I just set my screwdriver. Oh, here it is. These are JIS screws, so they're not just regular Phillips, so be very careful. Use a JIS screwdriver for it. They are different than Phillips. So I'm just going to go ahead and tighten these up, and then we should be done with this one. And again, you don't have to tighten these down with all your strength, because you might be taking them back off again to change that needle height with another spacer or something if you have some issues when it's running. So remember that. Alright, so usually after I get the last one locked in, kind of go over them again. Alright, so the carb should be done and ready to go back on the bike. So we're going to do that here in just a minute. Alright guys, so here's how I'm trying to put the carb back on. I got the cables back in their spot here. You're not going to be able to see very much, but got the choke cable in, the push and pull cable in, and so what I'm going to try to do is see if I can get these carbs in place, back in their boots, and then put the bracket on that holds the cables in place, because the way you got to twist and pull these cables to get them in, it's almost impossible. So I'm going to try this, see if it works. Alright guys, so I've got the carb back on. I couldn't really film much of it because I was just fighting with this thing, getting it back and forth, but I found out the way to do it. The easiest way I found was to get the rear boot on back here towards the air filter or air housing, get that tightened up, and then pull everything forward and get it onto the front mounts for the carburetor. I did put this bracket on after having it all in there, and that worked pretty easy. Still need to adjust the throttle because the push and pull doesn't work very well. So I know this cable needs to be lubed, and I'll do that at the top to let the lube run down to the bottom. So that's the way I did it. I put a little bit of grease around each of the inlets, and then pressed it on the back, got that tightened down, pressed it on the forward, and it seemed to have worked. So got that part of it done. So I think we're done with the carbs. There'll be more to come on it. I'm sure I'll have to do some adjusting and probably syncing and all of that good stuff later on, but we'll do that later. But for now, this will probably be the end of this video of tearing the carbs down. Hope you liked it. Hope that helped you. Please like, subscribe. We're gonna have more to come. We got a lot to do on this what is this thing? Nighthawk. That's what it is. Nighthawk. Kept wanting to say Superhawk, but this is the Nighthawk. So we're gonna work get more to come on that. So please like, subscribe, follow. We're gonna have more to come. Thank you.